And here we go. Gonna be showcasing the worst boss for Flicker Strike first, so you really get a sense of what you're working with when you're playing Flicker. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good. Oh, that's good. All right. This is tier 13, by the way. Not tier 15. Just because I ran out of the maps. I tried to get a tier 15, but I don't have as much time as I wanted. There we go. All right, come on. Doing a showcase. The main thing here is just showing that I can generate the charges fairly easily. Yeah, we're at 5. I'll live with 5. Perfect. So, this is Flicker Strike. And the main thing that distinguishes this Flicker Strike from other Flicker Strikes is it's a Chayula monk, and it's going pure phys, as we see on my staff, and on my Flicker Strike with which has no conversions. And the main reason why I'm doing this is because I was wanting to do something with Chayula monk, and like, you know, the requirements for these nodes and mana leech is some sort of physical damage, and I wanted to do something with Flicker, and I was thinking, oh well, reality rending would work pretty well with Flicker because it's per hit, so 23, 13, and 17 individual chances every hit to gain 25, 50, or 100% extra damage. So if you're constantly flickering as quickly as you can and getting out what I forget what the conversion is, 2 per power strike, so like 14, 15 strikes at like 7 power charges, and then not being able to, I should hurry. I should yeah, like 14, 15 of those. You're rolling this dice pretty often. So I was thinking, okay, how would you realistically do this on a Chayula monk? And it's actually fairly interesting because if we look at all the gems available for like physical monk skills, you've got Staggering Palm, you got Vaulting Impact, Wind Blast, and Whirling Assault. Some of them have their uses. There's an argument to use Wind Blast. It doesn't do as much damage, but you know, it's some kind of physical thing. And also, how are you going to develop the charges? Because power charges can only really come from certain interactions with like Killing Palm or Siphoning Strike. Well, we're using Resonance, which changes so that every time we gain a Frenzy charge, we gain power charges. Then we're getting Combat Frenzy. And then gain a Frenzy charge when you freeze, electrocute, or pin. Pin is the one I don't see people ever using because that's kind of like a weird one that only really exists on a support gem. And if you wanted to, you could potentially just run pin on your like downtime skill. So while you're not flickering, you could use it on the skill you're spamming to gain your frenzy charges back. That's an option. I figured I'd just kind of lean into it, and I just put on the bushwhack boots. So these bushwhacks basically make all physical damage I do pinning damage. And so what's going to happen is while I'm flickering, as you maybe saw in the earlier clips, I'm just pinning basically every enemy I see. So like, even if I might not kill it because maybe I don't roll the crit or maybe I don't roll the full phase and they're like a tougher enemy, they're probably just going to be pinned there. And so flickering is a lot safer that way. So I leaned into that. I got the main one, Serpent's Egg. And because we're going basically full into Leech, because we're doing a lot of fizz, I grabbed some Leech on my staff. The staff is about a divine. It's not the best staff. I definitely could upgrade it soon and probably should, but it's good stuff overall, considering all my gear here is between like 2 to 4 divines, and I'm running T15s every so often whenever they drop. Serpent's Egg, of course, gain additional charge to make the generation easier. And for the main skill, I'm actually using Siphoning Strike. And what's funny is that, Siphoning Strike obviously has the interaction with the shockwave and it does the little twirl. But if you just don't do any electric damage, it's actually like a super quick, safe kind of poking skill. You can poke at enemies fairly quickly. It gives distance. It pins them. That's like a mini stun. I don't even know if that's like a proper thing that's a part of it. It has increased stun buildup. But you do that. You have it build up pin. You get all your stuff. And because of the nature of Flicker Strike in this game, which is like you're not always going to have it up. It's a gamble button. You're gambling for not using charges consistently. You want to buff that up as much as possible. So I have Mantra of Destruction for additional chaos damage. So extra phys chaos along with the gamble node over here. And then I'm just going the basic stuff, crit, getting power charges, attack speed. The nodes over here, evasion and attack speed and some of this stuff. And I'm gonna want to try and grab pure chaos too, because I could also grab these nodes, and Event Horizon's a lot of chaos damage, so that could be pretty good. And then I'm also grabbing some damage taken as life, and then I also have this one over here, Anointed, for an extra 10%. So I'm actually leeching all three, and so whenever I'm flickering, it's covering a lot of the damage I take, along with 73% evasion. It could be better. Like I said, my gear's not perfect, but for the time being, it's pretty good. And then I also have the Stain, because look at all that energy shield it gives me. It's like I can't not run it. All right, I'm gonna quickly go over some of the gems I have. Ghost Dance, of course, because when you're running evasion and energy shield, it's just a no-brainer. Flicker Strike, Perpetual Charge, the most important single gem of any Flicker Strike build, with Flicker at 20% quality. I'm actually running Heavy Swing because the attack speed is not as crazy when you're gaining 285% more attack speed in general. Like, it's going to do the hits anyways. I'm not really rushing to get it out. Plus 35% more melee physical damage is something people don't really use. Close Combat for 25% more attack speed, and then Concentrated Effect for 40% more area damage. And the less area of effect doesn't really matter. Though I will try to see what it looks like without it, because that is the one thing that about clear that's an issue, which is why I use Staggering Palm to help with clear. You stagger an enemy sometimes, and because they're pinned, it actually means you don't stun them as much, so you can get off the primed more often. It's a very funny interaction that, because it lowers the amount of stun you get after you pin them, that means you can get this off more often with more duration, some extra fizz damage. I should actually take that off now that I'm rolling. Ooh, wow, that's bad. Let's put Scattershot in there instead. And then a Physical Mastery just to scale it, because it does do a little physical damage. The Siphoning Strike, I have Break Armor on this, since I'm going to be spamming it in the downtime in between, as you saw. It's important to break armor because we're doing a lot of fizz damage, and that's a good multiplier. Some attack speed for more, and more build up for more consistent build up whenever I need it. Wind Dancer with Blind, Maim, and Overpower. This surprisingly pins quite often, and then I have Hand of Chayula specifically for bossing with a Sniper's Mark and a Vulnerability. The Sniper's Mark is here to speed up power charge generation on single targets, and the Vulnerability is also here just to immediately ignore a lot of armor in case I don't break it or some kind of downtime goes down. Tempest Spell right here, Rage Forge, Leverage, and more area effects. Because we're going to be pinning, that counts as immobilized. So it gets extra crit chance, more area of effect for clear, and then Rage Forge. Because I have a couple gems right here that give me gain 1 rage on melee hit over here, as well as some damage and stun. I'm probably going to grab one more here whenever I remember. And that stuff's very good for just gaining some additional extra flat, more damage. There's not anything else in particular that's crazy about this build. I have to bump up the chaos res and eventually run my 4th trial. But yeah, no, I'm actually super happy with how the build came out and how often you're flickering. What's very funny is that with how this build works, you end up like, it feels kind of like you're going in between just spearing, because this kind of stab feels like a spear, and then going into your flicker burst. And I'm very happy with it because there's not a lot of builds out there right now that really focus on building and then spending. It had to be an augury, but who cares? But I'm just gonna do some end of the build clearing for any of those people that like want to see it in action and how I run this in case the first minute or so wasn't like clear. So you go in, you drop the bell when you can, you poke, you pop the buff, and then you flicker, and you hope that flicker works, because that's the one thing about flicker, is that it is extremely inconsistent with like going in between packs. Like, even if you had proper charge generation, like you get seven afterwards, it sometimes you're gonna go between every single pack. Like I take my hands off the controller. Like that one went on for a while, and then sometimes it's gonna just go on for 7 enemies, and then you're gonna be really sad. But I'll end it here on this lever, just because I don't need to clear a full map. You kind of get the gist of what's going on. But yeah, no. Hope some of you who are interested in like a pure phys monk were happy. Like, subscribe, POE stuff. I am a POE user.